In 2020, Donald Trump faced a major political defeat. He lost the White House to Joe Biden, and many believe that his time in American politics had come to an end. His critics saw it as the final chapter of his presidency, while his supporters hoped for a comeback. But against all odds, in 2024, Donald Trump orchestrated one of the greatest political comebacks in U.S. history. From legal battles to campaign rallies, from economic concerns to shifts in voter demographics, every step of his journey back to the presidency was marked by controversy, determination, and strategic maneuvering. So, how did he do it? What were the key factors that led to his victory? Did his opponent underestimate him? What role did the media, the economy, and public sentiment play in reshaping the election? In this video, we'll take you through the behind-the-scenes story of Trump's historic return to the White House. From his campaign strategy to the mistakes of his opponents, from surprise voting patterns to the impact of social media, this is the untold story of how Donald Trump won the 2024 U.S. presidential election. In 2020, Donald Trump lost the White House, a moment that many thought would mark the end of his political career. Losing a re-election bid is often seen as a political death sentence, but for Trump, it was just the beginning of a long and relentless fight to return to power. Rather than fading into the background like many former presidents, Trump remained a dominant force in American politics. He continued holding massive rallies, endorsing candidates in the 2022 midterms, and keeping his base engaged. Despite facing legal battles, media scrutiny, and social media bans, Trump found new ways to connect with voters, including alternative platforms, podcasts, and direct outreach. By the time the 2024 election cycle began, Trump had solidified his grip on the Republican Party. His influence was undeniable. Those he endorsed often won their elections, and any GOP politician who opposed him risked their own career. The Republican primaries, once expected to be competitive, quickly turned into a confirmation of Trump's dominance. But Trump's road to 2024 wasn't without challenges. He faced multiple criminal investigations, ongoing legal cases, and intense media attacks. His critics believed these obstacles would prevent him from winning back the presidency. However, Trump turned these challenges into political fuel. Instead of weakening him, the attacks energized his supporters. Every indictment, every controversy, every attempt to remove him from the ballot only reinforced his narrative, that he was fighting against a corrupt system determined to silence him. As the election approached, Trump sharpened his message. He focused on issues that resonated with voters: rising crime, economic struggles, border security, and a promise to restore what he called America's greatness. His campaign wasn't just about winning, it was about redemption, about proving his doubters wrong, and about completing what he started in 2016. And so, against all odds, Trump survived politically. He outmaneuvered his opponents, overcame legal and political challenges, and positioned himself for one of the most dramatic political comebacks in U.S. history. The stage was set for a high-stakes showdown, one that would ultimately lead to his return to the White House. As the 2024 election heats up, President Joe Biden's campaign faces several key challenges that could impact his chances of re-election. While Biden's experience and incumbency provide him with advantages, there are notable weaknesses that his team must address to secure victory in November. First, concerns about Biden's age and stamina continue to dominate discussions. At 81 years old, Biden is already the oldest sitting president in U.S. history. Polls consistently show that voters, across party lines, worry about his ability to handle another 4 years in office. His public appearances, occasional verbal slip-ups, and moments of hesitation fuel these concerns, providing an easy target for opponents who argue that he lacks the energy for the job. Second, Biden's approval ratings remain underwater. While his administration has overseen economic recovery efforts, major infrastructure investments, and job growth, many Americans still feel financially strained. Inflation, despite slowing, has left lasting frustrations, and high costs of living continue to weigh on voters. This makes it difficult for Biden to claim a strong economic victory, especially when many Americans don't feel the benefits in their daily lives. Third, his messaging struggles to resonate with younger and progressive voters. While Biden has pushed for student loan forgiveness and climate policies, some younger voters remain unimpressed, feeling that he hasn't gone far enough on key issues like healthcare reform, minimum wage increases, and broader student debt relief. Disillusionment within his own base could lead to lower voter turnout, a critical risk in a tight election. Another major challenge is public dissatisfaction with Biden's handling of foreign policy. The ongoing wars in Ukraine and Gaza have created divisions, particularly among Democratic voters. His support for Israel has alienated some progressives, while others criticize his approach to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Meanwhile, tensions with China and instability in the Middle East continue to pose diplomatic and political risks. Finally, Biden faces a highly energized Republican opponent. If former President Donald Trump secures the GOP nomination, Biden will have to navigate a rematch against a candidate whose base remains fiercely loyal. Trump's ability to dominate media attention, rally supporters, and push a populist message could pose significant challenges, particularly in key swing states where margins are razor thin. In the months ahead, Biden's campaign must address these weaknesses head-on. Convincing skeptical voters, energizing his base, and refining his messaging will be crucial. Whether his team can successfully counter these challenges could determine the outcome of the 2024 election. As the 2024 presidential election approaches, Donald Trump is once again at the center of the political stage. His campaign strategy reflects both his past successes and new challenges as he seeks to reclaim the White House. Let's break down the key elements of his strategy. First, Trump is doubling down on his core base of supporters. His campaign rallies are larger than those of most other candidates, filled with enthusiastic crowds who remain fiercely loyal. Trump's ability to connect with this base, made up of conservative, rural, and working-class voters, has been a defining strength. He reinforces this connection by emphasizing themes of nationalism, traditional values, and distrust of government elites. Second, his message centers on revenge and retribution. Trump is portraying himself as a political outsider fighting against what he calls a corrupt establishment. He frequently claims that the justice system, mainstream media, and even parts of his own party are working against him. His multiple indictments and legal battles are not seen as liabilities within his base, but as proof that he is being targeted for standing up to the system. This fuels his argument that he is the only candidate strong enough to take on Washington. Third, Trump is running on a familiar platform of economic nationalism. He promises to bring back manufacturing jobs, reduce reliance on foreign countries, particularly China, and lower taxes. His America First economic policies resonate with many voters who feel left behind by globalization and economic shifts. He also continues to attack Biden's handling of inflation and the economy, arguing that under his leadership things were better, cheaper, and stronger. Another key aspect of his strategy is immigration and border security. Trump is once again making immigration a central issue, blaming the Biden administration for what he calls an invasion at the southern border. His hardline stance on border security, including calls for mass deportations and a return to stricter policies, plays well with conservative voters who see illegal immigration as a major national threat. Trump is also working to reshape the Republican Party in his image. Unlike in 2016, when he faced resistance from GOP leaders, most of the Republican establishment has now aligned with him. He has endorsed loyal candidates in key races, ensuring that his influence extends beyond the presidency. At the same time, he remains hostile toward Republicans who have criticized him, labeling them as part of the deep state or re-nose, Republicans in name only. Finally, Trump's general election strategy focuses on key battleground states. He understands that flipping states like Georgia, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Arizona will be crucial to winning in 2024. His campaign is tailoring its message to working-class voters in these areas, particularly those who feel disillusioned with Biden's presidency. Trump's team is also aggressively pushing legal and political challenges to election rules in certain states, seeking changes that could benefit his chances in November. In the months ahead, Trump will continue to dominate media attention, energize his base, and attack his opponents, both Republican and Democrat. His strategy remains aggressive, populist, and focused on reclaiming the White House by appealing to voters who believe the system is broken and that he is the one to fix it. The question is, will his strategy be enough to win in 2024? That remains to be seen. Election night in the United States is one of the most anticipated and closely watched political events in the world. It's a night filled with excitement, tension, and sometimes controversy. While most elections run smoothly, history has shown that disputes over results, voting procedures, and allegations of fraud can lead to major controversies that shape public trust in the democratic process. First, let's look at how election night unfolds. As polls close across different time zones, news networks begin analyzing early results, exit polls, and vote counts. Key battleground states, such as Pennsylvania, Georgia, Wisconsin, and Arizona, often hold the power to determine the outcome. Networks use projections to call races, but in close elections, results can take hours or even days to finalize. This uncertainty can lead to frustration and, in some cases, controversy. One of the biggest sources of election night controversies comes from delayed vote counts. In some states, mail-in ballots and absentee votes take longer to process. This can cause early leads to shift dramatically, sometimes overnight. For example, in the 2020 election, Donald Trump led in several key states on election night, but as mail-in ballots were counted, Joe Biden pulled ahead. This led to accusations of fraud and claims that the election had been stolen, despite no widespread evidence to support these allegations. Another major controversy revolves around voting laws and procedures. Each state has its own election rules, which sometimes change before an election. Issues like voter ID laws, ballot drop boxes, and signature verification have all been points of legal battles. Some argue that stricter voting laws prevent fraud, while others believe they suppress voter turnout, particularly among minority communities. These disputes can lead to lawsuits that drag on for weeks after election night. Additionally, claims of election fraud and irregularities have fueled controversy in past elections. While cases of actual fraud are rare, allegations, whether true or false, can create public distrust. In 2000, the Bush versus Gore election hinged on Florida's recount, leading to a Supreme Court decision that effectively decided the race. In 2020, Trump's legal team filed multiple lawsuits challenging results, but courts rejected most of them due to lack of evidence. A newer controversy in recent elections has been the role of misinformation and social media. False claims about vote rigging, hacked machines, and fraudulent ballots spread rapidly online, influencing public perception. Social media companies have taken steps to label or remove misleading election content, but this has sparked debates over free speech and censorship. Finally, some election nights don't end with a clear winner. If results are too close to call, recounts and legal battles can extend the uncertainty. In the most extreme case, if no candidate reaches the necessary 270 electoral votes, the decision could go to Congress. An outcome that hasn't happened in over a century but remains a legal possibility. Election night is supposed to be a celebration of democracy, but its controversies highlight the challenges of running free and fair elections in a deeply divided nation. As technology advances and political tensions rise, election night controversies will likely remain a defining part of American politics. The real question is, how can the U.S. ensure fair elections while maintaining public trust? That debate is far from over. Donald Trump's 2024 victory was a combination of strategy, luck, and his opponent's weaknesses. Whether you love him or hate him, his comeback has reshaped American politics in ways few expected. His campaign focused on core issues that energized his base: economic nationalism, immigration, and a promise to drain the swamp once again. He capitalized on voter frustration with inflation, border security, and global conflicts, painting his opponent as weak and ineffective. Meanwhile, legal battles and controversies only seemed to strengthen his support. reinforcing his image as a political outsider fighting against the establishment. But what happens now? A second Trump term is likely to bring major policy shifts. Expect tougher immigration enforcement, deregulation, and an aggressive stance on trade. He may push for changes in voting laws and overhaul key government agencies. Foreign policy could see a pivot toward isolationism, with a stronger emphasis on America first. And politically, Trump's leadership could further divide Washington or reshape it entirely. One thing is certain: Trump's return to power will define the next chapter of American history. The question is, how will the country respond? Like and subscribe for more documentaries videos.